just fucking press record and hope for the fucking best. I'm back on the mic. It's been a fuck-ass minute. Woo! So, hello, you guys. We are in a 2-part series, a first ever on the Real Authentic Woman podcast. And I gotta say, I'm actually having a lot of fun with this. You know, this is an experiment that is definitely outside my normal realm of content, and it's just kind of fun to have an opinion outside of something that's external from my personal life. So anyways, if you've been keeping up with the times, in my last episode, I really dove deep into humanity's reliance on the systems and infrastructure that we've kind of all just grown accustomed to. But today, I'm actually going to counter some of those thoughts and feelings and actually discuss my fascination with humans. And before we get too deep into this episode, I feel like I really need to address that humanity is just going through it right now, especially here in the United States. There's a lot of things that are being uncovered. There's a lot of hate happening in the world. And I think it's just important that, I address that because I don't want to neglect the severity of the things that are happening and currently taking place in our country. And it's extremely sad that we've gotten to this point of where we are. And we've become so blinded by all of this hate due to the incompetence of our leaders. And that just really sucks because there is such a clear divide, and it just feels like that line keeps getting thicker and thicker, and the world is so heavy right now, so I do, in a way, want to take this as an opportunity to uplift humanity and talk about the things that I love about us, even though there are plenty of hateable traits. Plus I just feel like the world could use some more love right now. So here we are. Let's get into it. I think something I have always found extremely fascinating about humans is our ability to adapt. We might not be very good at change, but best believe we find a way to adapt, babe. Okay? Bringing it back to my previous episode, in the beginning, we had to learn how to live off the land and adapt to our environment so that it worked for us and with us and not against us. I think that's very similar to how we operate now. We have been able to figure out how to harness an idea and turn it into something that benefits humanity as a whole. We've been able to adjust and change things to work more efficiently and effectively for us over time. We have found a way to just make life easier, and that's really cool. It's really cool that I don't have to fucking hunt for my food every week. You know what I mean? It's refreshing that we have adapted as far as we have because it just seems easier. Yeah, I guess that's all I have to say about that. It just seems easier than it was back then. And yes, we still have some bullshit to deal with. Don't get me wrong, but our adaptation has allowed humanity to truly access our environment and our resources in a way that has made life easier and more simpler in some ways. Because the other thing I think too is that, humans naturally have a desire to chase something, to see what's possible. And what I mean by that is we are all very forward thinkers. We're constantly thinking about the future, the possibilities it holds, the opportunities available. You see what I'm saying? It's very alluring to us. And I feel like that proves in our adaptation that people did, in fact, fuck around and find out. which I'll get into a little bit later. But for the purpose of this point, the other thing that I really want to mention is that adaptation is not just how we've adapted through our history, but we've also learned how to adapt and adjust to things that life throws at us. Like, for example, okay, have you ever been in a job that basically gives you the Cliff Note job duties of what you're actually supposed to be doing? You know what I'm saying? One of my early jobs out of college, I was brought onto this team to be a video production assistant, right? And to me, that sounded like I was strictly going to be working on digital storytelling, interviewing people, editing footage, grabbing B-roll, if you know what that is, whatever. Right? No, wrong. I once spent a 17-hour workday at a high-level production event that was held at the fucking Breslin Center. And for those of you who don't know where that is, it's where Michigan State plays basketball, okay? Giant as fuck. I was hauling speakers, fucking running cord routes to monitors, fucking to all these switchboards, hanging backdrops. Like, bro, a 17-hour day and doing all that shit was not on my bingo card or in the job description, but I had to adapt. Go with whatever the fuck was happening because it was my job, right? And I don't know, that might not be the best example, but like sometimes life just throws you curveballs that you weren't expecting, like your sister getting pregnant out of the blue or getting laid off from your job of 16 years. I don't know. Life happens. And I personally feel like humans adapt to the changes in the best way that we can, especially when they are so sudden like that. We all won't change willingly. I mean, come on now. But if it's out of the blue, best believe we're going to adapt. We might not like it. We might hate it, but we always adjust. We come out the other side. And I think that that's really admirable. I think recently I've had to do a lot of adjusting and adapting in my own life, especially in the last year or so. One of my best friends moved away, and then one of my other friends, is kind of going through this change in life, change in circumstances that have put me in a situation where I, needed to change some things in my life. And while some of those things felt gradual, nothing really prepares you for those shifts. Like once they actually happen, you kind of just have to adjust to those changes. I can't help that my best friend moved away or that my other friend is going through a new life change, but that just means that I have to adjust, But I guess the point I'm trying to make is that our adaptation is just extremely admirable. Like I said, it's not only through history, but how we have continued to do it in our personal lives. That shit is hard, but we do it anyways, probably because we have no choice. But nevertheless, we are still adapting, which means we are growing. So I guess that's a plus, right? And you guys, I kind of have to apologize because I feel like I'm not, in the mood really to be recording right now. I've kind of, like I said, like this, adapting, I feel like it's finally catching up to me and I'm exhausted, I'm exhausted and I hope I don't sound too doom and gloom, but that's where we're at. So I at least I'm telling you, you know what I mean? Let's move on though. The other thing I really just absolutely love about humans is our ability to create. When I look around at our world today, it's like this was all once just an idea that someone had and then was ballsy enough to go out and make it happen. Like, that's fucking dope. Well, like, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? Like, the Wright brothers really just looked up in the sky, saw a bird and thought, what if we could fly type shit? You know what I'm saying? And then literally spent their whole life trying to create something that no one ever thought to be possible because it was just this crazy idea and it had never been done before. And yet, here we are, now flying on an airplane is as normal as taking a train. Like, shit is crazy. And I think about that with like buildings and cars and all these things that we have created to, again, make our lives easier or even more fulfilling at that. I think of fucking Disney World and Universal. Like, okay, that's fun as shit. And I genuinely believe that humans were always meant to create. There's such beauty in being able to put something together and then share it with others. I think that's the purpose sometimes of what we do here. I feel like we were all just meant to create and interact and share that with the world. And there's something that I feel like I really need to bring up because, again, I think it's just something that the world needs to hear right now. And it's probably going to piss some people off, but that's okay, whatever. These thoughts are surfacing for me after witnessing the halftime show at the Super Bowl this year that Bad Bunny put on. And I'll be honest, I have never listened to Bad Bunny prior to watching the Super Bowl, okay? And fuck, dude, you know what? I'm actually kind of pissed that I hadn't already, you know what I mean? Like, I hadn't already been on that train, but it is what it is. What I appreciated about that performance is that even though I didn't speak the language, the storytelling throughout the whole show was so rich. And you know what? I was actually really fucking vibing with the music. The message was still very clear, even if I didn't understand it fully. And it was cool to be transported into someone else's world, to see where he comes from, to see the culture, the love, and the unity that he had brought to the world's eyes. I mean, it was beautiful. And thank God we still have people in higher places that are recognizing the importance of sharing artists like this and to be able to give them a platform to share their truth, right? And I bring this up because I realize that creativity has no barriers. It breaks through language, it breaks through beliefs, and it gives people an experience. The problem is that sometimes we humans aren't always open to receiving that experience, to experience something new or unknown to us. But that's why I think creativity is so powerful. I'm sure when the Wright brothers, created the very first airplane, there wasn't a line out the door of people wanting to fucking try it out. You know what I mean? But eventually people saw the appeal to it. And that's why creativity is so powerful. Because again, if you look around you, everything created was once taboo because it was new, and it's cool that people see a need or feel a calling to create something. And even though they might have had backlash for whatever it is that they're trying to create or that they tried to create, people still do it anyway. People still did it anyway. You get what I'm saying? And that phone that you're using to listen to this, someone created that. The washer you just took your clothes out of, someone created that. The spatula you just pulled out of your dishwasher, someone created that. And your life is enhanced because someone somewhere had the idea to create it. Creativity is everywhere. And deeper than that, it's time that we start embracing those who are bold enough to create and to create from a place that is authentic to them and to where they come from, because it allows others to see the possibilities of another way, of another perspective. And I don't know if I'm making sense, but I never know, you guys. I just fucking talk and hope that this shit translates. Moral of this point that I'm trying to make is that creativity has no boundaries. And it's all around us. And what a privilege that is. Humans are actually really fucking cool. Okay. Now, the last point is pretty obvious to me. I don't think it's a secret that we humans are incredibly empathetic. Some more than others, but for the most part, we care about other people. Sometimes those people are just the people we keep close, like friends or family, but sometimes it's people we don't know, who are one breath away from dying unless their pacemaker gets hooked up. You see what I'm saying? Some people go into fields specifically to care for other humans. Others don't. That's okay. I am not one of those people. I care about humans in a different way, but I am not going to be helping somebody on their deathbed. That's just not something I want to do, babe. You know what I mean? Anyways, I feel like everyone has some level of empathy that they operate from. Unless you're like a psychopath or something, then I have no idea. But you get what I'm saying. I think with empathy comes the intention to connect. Now, it might not always be mutual, but showing empathy, showing that you care, can lead to a deeper understanding of one another. And again, I do have to mention that it's definitely sad to see the state of our country right now. There's not a lot of empathy or connection being built. There is so much injustice happening without any consequences. But I'm really not trying to go there in this episode. I'm trying to be uplifting and happy, which is also new for me. Anyways, given all the shit that's going on, I think it's just all the more reason to talk about the importance of connection. I was rewatching a childhood favorite of mine, which is something I regrettably do way too often. Thank you, Disney Plus. It is heavily in the weekly rotation of streaming services I use. But anyways, I came across Brother Bear, and I'm like, oh, classic. Let's put this on. First of all, the movies you watch as kids always just hit so much harder when you're an adult. Like, they just do. And I think that's why I be rewatching them all the time, because I'm like, as a kid, you weren't necessarily paying attention to the deeper meaning. Like, I feel like you were, maybe unconsciously even, but now you can fully understand it. You get what I'm saying? The full frontal lobe is developed, babe. Now I'm understanding. Now I'm comprehending it all. But this movie was all about connection. And for those of you who haven't seen it, first of all, shame on you. Second off, I'm just going to give you a quick little rundown, okay? Basically, the movie is set in damn near the Stone Ages, right? Like, woolly mammoths are still roaming around type shit, okay? But there are these three brothers, okay? One of them is the older, wiser brother, and then the other two are immature as fuck. Long story short, the older brother dies trying to save their dumbasses from a bear, and then the youngest is so filled with grief and rage that he eventually goes after this bear and kills it. Well, this pisses the spirits off because, bro, what are we doing? So, long story short, the youngest brother gets turned into a bear to essentially change his perspective, right? And he meets this little bear cub. They go on this whole journey. And in the end, the youngest brother realized that he had killed this poor little bear cub's mom. But more than that, he realized that the way animals connect and the way humans connect are virtually the same. It might look different on the outside, but ultimately, it's the same. And that hit harder for me, given everything that is going on right now. Because sometimes all we need is a little bit of change in perspective to see that we're not all that different. We may look different. We may not be from the same place or even speak the same language, but the way we connect with our people, that's very similar. I don't think humans would be able to survive if we didn't have one another to lean on or rely on. I mean, I talked about that in the last episode. But more than that, it's the way we're able to enrich one another's lives too, company, companionship, love is such a necessary experience for humans. I can't imagine, going through life without some of the people I have in my life currently, or that I've had in my life. Connection matters to us. And my hope is that one day everyone can see that we all experience connection in similar ways, even if it doesn't look the same. Because at the end of the day, we all came from the same fucking place, I feel like. You know what I mean? I mean, none of us know where we go after this or why the fuck we're even here in the first place. And sure, do we all have our own beliefs? Yeah, but like no one knows what the fuck's going on at the end of the day. We're just doing the best we can. And the point I'm trying to make is that, you know, I am so grateful we as humans understand empathy and connection. You know, we might not always get along, but regardless, we understand it. And there's something so special about that experience. So, yeah, are we a little stubborn? And do we like to stick to our own beliefs? Sure. But at the end of the day, we all crave connection. And that's what makes us human. And that's pretty fucking cool. Okay? All right. I think I've reached the end of this 2-part series. I'm not sure if I accomplished what I set out to do. But either way, I definitely enjoyed having this conversation today. I know we humans can be really shitty. But we can also be pretty fucking cool too. You know, we might not like change. We might not change on our own, but we adapt to what life throws at us. And we have that desire to grow and to experience what possibilities could be out there. We are all extremely creative beings who can't help but experiment and lean into the what if. You know, creativity has no bounds. It can unite people beyond words, and that's powerful. But connection is our biggest asset. And I don't think people realize that. Our connection to one another is sacred. It's something we wouldn't be able to live without, regardless of where we come from or what we look like. Humans crave connection, and it might look different for everyone, but ultimately, connection is necessary. And I pray that one day we will all recognize the power that it holds when we let go of our own beliefs and hold space for each other. Because on the surface, we're not that different. And okay, I'm going to shut up now. I hope that these past 2 episodes translated. I wanted to try something new, something outside of my comfort zone, and, you know, I think we definitely accomplished that. So if you made it this far, thanks for tuning in, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.